Alright, so in this module we will learn the CSS. Okay. In previous module we learned HTML, which stands for hypertext markup language. CSS, it's more like used for the structure of your web page, structuring your web page. And for CSS, it's more like used for styling. So it stands for cascading style sheets. Okay, so let's get started with this. Now for CSS, we can write the CSS code in three ways. One is inline CSS, second is internal CSS, and third is external CSS. Okay, let's go one by one. Let's understand each type of CSS. So let's assume that we have a h1 tag. I will say hello everyone. Okay, and I will save it and start the live server. You can see that we have this hello everyone text. Okay, and we can of course comment down this. Okay, so let's assume that you want to give it a color. Let's give it a red color. So now to give it a red color with inline CSS, what we will do, inside the h1 tag, starting tag of h1, we will write something called style, and we will write color, and that will be red, and we will put this semicolon and the end. And when we save it, you can see that the text got changed to the red color. Okay, so this is something styling we are giving. Now this is called as internal CSS because we are directly giving the CSS inside the HTML tag. Now for the internal CSS, what we have to do is that we have to write the code just before above the closing of the head tag. Here I will put again style, and I will put h1, and I will put color as blue. Okay, now here is the thing. If you write code something like this, so we are giving two different colors to the h1 tag. One is going from the internal CSS, and second is going from the, sorry, one is going from the inline CSS, and second is going from the internal CSS. Same, both are on the same file of HTML, but if you see that inline CSS have the first priority. So if you see the color is still red, which is because it's inline CSS given on the inline CSS. Okay. So if I remove this and save it, you can see now the heading tag color is turned blue. Okay. So this is how it works. Now for the external CSS, what we have to do is that we have to create a CSS file in like we have to store our files. It can be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, any files. Okay, so those files will store in same folder. Let me create one folder first. So this is like a web page. Okay, and inside the web page I will put our index.html, and I will, we can put the images as well, but for now let's put the index.html. Now in same page I will create new folder called. All right. So then we were right. So now we will, what we will do, that we will create a new folder for CSS. We can directly add a CSS file, but it's good to create as a folder. Like we can give it styles, and inside the styles we'll create a new file called, we can again call it index.css or main.css, anything you want. Okay. Let me copy this code and put it here. Okay, comment document. I will remove the code from here. Okay, and now if we save it, you can see that okay, because we changed the folder file, the index.html is not on desktop, it's on the in the web page folder. So I will again, I have to create something like web page. I hope it will work. Yeah. So inside the web page, we have index.html file, and this file have this heading tag, and inside this heading tag we have the main CSS file. But for some reasons the CSS is not loading up. Why? Because we have to fetch or import this CSS file into our HTML. We will do it right above the heading tag. How we will do it? Add a link we will add a link tag, okay, which will have relation, which will be style sheet, and it will have link which is in styles folder, main CSS. Okay, simple, and close it. Okay. Now if I now check that the CSS is working, because now we have imported the CSS file. Now we can easily add multiple code and add multiple CSS files and assign and import it inside the particular HTML file. Okay. Now we know what is inline CSS, that we directly give CSS to the HTML tags. There is internal CSS for putting the CSS directly inside the same HTML file above the heading tag, and then we can create a new file and import it inside our HTML file. Okay. Now let's learn what can be done with the CSS. Okay, so we can, if you see that we have given color to the h1 is a tag. Okay, but there are more two ways we can give the to the CSS part. One is by class. We can create an attribute called class, and we can write anything like this is a heading. Okay, and to assign the CSS to any selector, which is in our case class, we have to put dot, and then we'll put the name of our class, that is heading. Okay, and then if I write color red and hit save button, you can see it turned red. Now in CSS, whatever you write after like whatever comes next will be given importance. So now even if I write heading color green, it will take green color, because whatever you write in next line of code will be given the importance. Okay, now we can use the class for multiple HTML tags. Okay, but there is also one way to assign the CSS, that is ID, and you have to take care that ID name should be unique for each tag. Like this, it should be unique. Okay, it shouldn't, you should not repeat the ID name for any HTML tag, because it will then create problems when we are doing something in JavaScript, etc. So it's better to have single unique ID, and to assign the code to the ID is putting the hash and then the name of the ID, that is unique. Okay, unique, and then color will be blue, and it's not working yet. Why? Because we have not saved the HTML file. So let's save it, and now you can see that our heading tag have turned blue. Okay, now what there are a lot of things we can do. We can also assign the font family. Okay, so first thing first, that every system have their system font families there. So in our case, it's, if you want to give the font family, like change the font of your web page, it's good idea to assign the font family directly to the body tag, so it will get inside all of your code. Okay, so if you go to the body and hit font family, you can see those font families are present in my system, but it might not present in your system. So in that case, what we can do is that we can go for the Google fonts. Okay, so inside the Google fonts, if you see, there are multiple fonts. Okay, if I click on Montserrat, there are two ways again you can do it. You can download the font and then assign it in the CSS, or you can directly get embedded code. Okay, so if you see, this is the code we have to put. I like this import way of doing this, so I can directly copy this and I will just put it inside my main CSS file and import it. Okay, and how I can do it, there is the way of, for this will be for the mod set. So what I will do, that I will give the, to the body I will give the font family of Montserrat, which we are downloading from the Google, okay, API. Now if I reload, you can see this have turned to the Montserrat family. If you want to recheck it, you can click on it, right click on it and click on inspect. And if you see inside the body tag, we have this family. If I untick this, now it's getting my default font, that is Arial. But again, if you click on it, we can see whatever is present, that is Montserrat. Okay, now now uh, we can also do plenty of things, like we can assign a font size. I will remove this code, and it's better to have the body code above. On now for the font size, we can do it like we can keep any size. You can keep it in pixel. Okay, for the 80 pixel, you can see, let's make it much bigger, like 150 pixel. Okay, it's not working. Let's see why it's not working, because again it's the ID we are using, not the class. So let me turn it into the class, and the class will be heading. When I save it, you can see now our heading tag is having 150 pixel of font size. Okay, there is more you can do with the font, is that is font weight. You can put it like from the 100 to 900 value. The lesser the, so for example, if I want it, there are ways, like you can also write a bold, or you can write lighter, or you can put a value. If you put a 500 font weight, it will get little normal, but if you keep it 800, it will get more bolder. Okay, now we can also make this text in center, where we can use something like text align center. Okay, so this got into the center of the web page. Okay, there are multiple things we can do with the font as well. As you type, you can see we can say font style, and that can also go italic. Okay, and now you can see our text is italic. Okay, okay, cool. Now let's understand more about the some box models, right? There is something called a div, which is used to create something like a box. So inside the div, we can put our heading tag. Okay, I will format this, and inside that, let me give it something 60 pixel. And inside this div, I want some boxes. Okay, so I will create. So I will call it this div as a main box, and I will call this div as a item box. Okay, and this will have item 1, and we can create multiple boxes. Okay, I will create 4 in this case, 3 and 4. I will again document this. Okay, so we have a div which have a class called main box, and inside that we have multiple divs. Okay, let's see how it's looking right now. So it's looking pretty basic. What we can do, we can also, let's give some height and width to this main box. Okay, and some border as well. So we'll add class. Okay, because this class starts with dot main box. Inside the main box, we can put it height, that can go 800 pixel, width that can go 900 pixel. Okay, if I save it, you can see nothing, because in we can do that, we can assign a border, and it will be 1 pixel solid red. Save it. Now you can see that we have a box I don't know why it's showing up. We have a box of div which has height of 800 pixel, width of 900 pixel. We can also make this height auto. That means it will take only the required height, whatever elements you have inside your div, that will be only taken as a height. Now for this item box, we can again do item box, right? We can give some height to it. That can be 80 pixel. Let's give it 100 pixel and same to the width, 100 pixel. Now you can see again we cannot see anything, so let's give it a border, pixel solid black. Okay, so now you can see we have three boxes which are below one another. Okay, now there is something I want to tell you, that it's good idea to assign give the color in the hex format. Okay, hex color code format. So if you click on this, you can change or if you go on a Google and type hex color code, and inside this we can, you know, create any, get any color shade and just copy this hex file, and we have to put it here like this hash. If you see, okay, we don't have this heading now, so we can give it to the item box. Give it to the item box, and it's pretty big, so yes, other code. Now you can see that we have a item box which have some color which is in the hex, so it's good idea to give the coloring in the hex format. Okay, now if you are saying that this div box are going below, because by default it has some display properties. If I make it display block, nothing happened. But if I make it display inline, you can see it got only whatever content it has, it is having only that much of height and width. And if I make it inline block, you can see it is now turned into one by one in this raw format. Okay, so that's the display property. Like there are multiple display properties. So if I inspect, and you can see we have a display property called inline block. Okay, we also have inline, and then we also have block. Okay, now there is one something called okay there is something called a flex box. Okay, that is also a display property. So in order to do that, we put display flex. Nothing happened, but flex won't go to this item, it will go to the main container. Okay, I will reload this page, and I will remove this display inline block. We don't need that with the flex box. And inside the main box, we can also test out the things directly from the browser. So to the main box, I will give the value called display flex. Now you can see with this flex box, with this flex property, we got our items in a row. We can also put the gap of the 10 pixel. Okay, now there is something called padding, where if we want to put the spacing inside the box, you can just simply write padding, and if I write 20 pixel, you can see we got the 20 pixel gap all over the box. If you want to just give the padding from the left hand side, then we can write padding left, and we can write 40 pixel, so it will then get the padding to the left with the 40 pixel. In the same way we can do for top, right, bottom. And if you want to give the padding from the same property, in here we can write it like top I want 20 pixel, right I want 40 pixel, again bottom I want 20 pixel, and left I want 40 pixel. It's like top, right, like top, right, bottom, left. Okay, that's how it works. Cool. Now for the, there is something called margin. If you want the spacing outside of the box, box. So you can see now we have the margin for our box, and it works same way the padding works in terms of giving the value. Okay, now flex also, we can do multiple things with the flex. So if I say flex direction column, then you can see we got it in the column format. We can also reverse it, same with the row, or we can reverse the row. Okay, you can see how it's working out. Okay, now let's put it we can also do something like justify content, where we can put it in the center, we can put it in the end, we can put it the start. Okay, now we can also do something like align items, where we can put it in the, now it's not working, let me increase the height to the 800 pixel. Now you can see the items are into the center. We can also keep it to the start, or we can put it into the end. Okay, this is how this flexbox work. There is something we can also do something with the grid and say a flexbox are little similar, but grid is used to have the proper height and width of the boxes. So for example, if I do it in display grid, if I say grid template uh, columns to be auto, you can see now it's into two, um, it's taking equal. Then if I say width to the fit content, or if I just remove this fit uh, thing, even if I remove the border, um, width will be fit content. There is something called fit content in the width. Okay, let me again go with the display, will be grid template columns will have 4 columns. So we can also say auto, or we can decide how much space to take. So I can say 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. Okay, or we can also say that it can have, instead of writing it again and again, like I can say repeat 6 times or 4 times 1 FR. So whatever it has, it will take, if to the item box, let's do something like I will say 100%. Okay, height will be 200 pixels. Okay, so now if you can see that where each box is taking equal height, we can also put some gap 20 pixel. And see, instead of writing auto auto auto, we can write something like this. So 1 FR, it will repeat 4 times in each thing. So even if I duplicate this, it will just go down, like it will just have 4 columns, and inside 4 columns it will have another 4 rows, and again 4. Okay, so this code is really helpful, that repeat for 1 FR. 1 FR means like it will take whatever it has, it will take 1 out of 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So this was like it. I want you to understand the basics of it, of grid and flexbox. Don't think about that much. It just, for the understanding, for our WordPress tutorial. Okay, we can also have the background. So if I want this to have let me copy this. If I reload, okay, this is gone. Now we can also give some to the main box, we can put some background. Okay, we can give the background color, which can be blue or anything. You can see this turn blue. Okay, we can also put the background image, where we have to put URL, and inside URL we, if you see, we have some image in of so let me put it inside the web page. Okay, now if you see, we can go to the images. It will be inside okay, inside the web page we have the images, and inside images we have the nature.jpg. Okay, we have to close it with the semicolon. Now if you see, we have some image right in the background. Now there are multiple ways that you can assign the background size. If you keep it cover, it will take all the, it will look, basically it will look good. Okay, if you keep it content, which is normally, so it will, whatever size it has, it will take that size, and it will also in the background image property, image is always repeats. So for that we can use a property called background repeat, should be no repeat. Okay, if I do that, I can see this content is not useful because in our case, because the image is smaller than our whole width, whole div type. So we will use the cover and save it. Now if you can see, it's looking beautiful. Okay, uh, now mm, we also see how we can use the border. mm, I will remove this item box, I will remove this code, and I will give it some height of 500 pixel. I will remove this div. Okay, now we have a div, so we can also do something called border radius, where if you want some curve inside your div, we can do that. So in a case, if you want 40 pixel border radius, you can see we got curve all the way to the box. You can also have it just on top left. So you can see now we have just have the curve in the top left. If you want, in case you want different values for each corner, so it works like top, right, bottom, left. Okay, like top, right, bottom, left. Cool. So that's how the border radius works. We saw spacings, we saw block, display block, inline block, display flex, and grid properties. Okay, and we saw how we can do the CSS from internal, external, and inline CSS, right? So that's the way we can work on the CSS parts. This was the basics of it, and this is for it. In the next chapter, next module, we will understand the basics of JavaScript, and then we will start working on the WordPress and start building the web pages. Trust me, it will get easier as we go. So yeah, thank you.